The Destruction of the Taints by Venerable Rung Ruang Papa's Sorrow, Dr. Rung Ruang Lim Chu Patipa. In Buddhism, the problem in mind processing is caused by the combination of the craving after the feeling, of which the mind is dominated by the five aggregates subject to clinging, and then the problem is aggravated during the volitional formations of thinking that drive the mind to respond incoming stimulus from the world by taking evil doing with greed, hatred, and delusion to the world. Therefore, in order to resolve the problem at the origin, it is very important to explore into the mind processing, and then apply the Four Noble Truth analysis on each step of the whole mind processing of the process of dependent origination to gain knowledge and wisdom to comprehend the full 48 knowledge, especially the analysis of the mind system of the applications of the Four Noble Truths at the origin of defilement at craving, clinging, and ignorance, respectively, in the collective term of the 12 activities for the destruction of the taints within the process of dependent origination. In summary, the 12 activities for the destruction of the taints with the applications of the Four Noble Truths at the craving, clinging, and ignorance of the process of dependent origination are the most critical issues in the mind development, which can be presented as follows. The application of the Four Noble Truths at the three areas at craving, clinging, and ignorance in the process of dependent origination can be explained in terms of neuron clusters at the central nervous system as follows. The origin of the taint on sensual pleasure at craving in the process of dependent origination, physically at anterior cingulate cortex at the gray areas where the brain will affect the selection of attention with stimuli from the world. The origin of the taint on existence at clinging in the process of dependent origination, physically at hippocampus and amygdala where the brain will store and retrieve the information of individuality as memory. The origin of the taint on ignorance at ignorance in the process of dependent origination, physically at dorsolateral prefrontal cortex where the brain will perform the volitional formations of thinking. The Buddha explained that by cutting or terminating the process of dependent origination, then we could liberate the mind, and made an end of suffering in life. In order to understand the knowledge for the destruction of the taints, it is very important to have clear understanding of the details of mind processing of the process of dependent origination. All beings are in suffering due to the assumption of the existence of self. It starts when encountering with the world at the sixth sense basis. There are internal sixth sense bases. Once there is a contact of external with internal sixth sense basis. In dependence upon contact there is the sixth consciousness at the sixth sense basis. In dependence upon contact there is feeling in the process of dependent origination. A person with an uninstructed cognition without learning the truths of life within nature will feel bodily feeling first, and then assuming a self to have a second feeling on mental feeling again, while a noble disciple with instructed insight will have only the bodily feeling, but no mental feeling. In dependence upon feeling there is the craving in the process of dependent origination, which is the origin of the taint on sensual pleasure. In dependence upon craving there is pursuit. In dependence upon pursuit there is gain. In dependence upon gain there is decision-making. In dependence upon decision-making there is desire and lust. In dependence upon desire and lust there is attachment on the five aggregates subject to clinging in the process of dependent origination, which is the official origin of the taint on existence. Although the existence starts at the craving for existence, but it will fully dominate the mind at the five aggregates subject to clinging. In dependence upon attachment, clinging, there is possessiveness. In dependence upon possessiveness there is existence in the process of dependent origination. The birth in the process of dependent origination, the aging and death in the process of dependent origination, whatsoever the object of consciousness, or the signal processing, or the release of neurotransmitters, or mental phenomenon happening inside the mind will arise and fade away within a short period. It is impermanent, deteriorating, and no self. In dependence upon aging and death there is niggardliness, ignorance, which is the origin of the taint on ignorance. Those who understand the truths of life within nature as the banishment of ignorance. Those who do not know the truths of life within nature, that is, life is no self, so-called ignorance. Although the object of consciousness may fade away, but due to ignorance, when consciousness is established and has come to growth, there is the production of future renewed existence. In dependence upon ignorance there is volitional formations in the process of dependent origination. In dependence upon volitional formations there is consciousness, of the new production of the object of consciousness, in the process of dependent origination. In dependence upon consciousness there is virtual or internal name and form in the process of dependent origination. The internal name and form reflow within the mind processing in the process of dependent origination. When there is the production of future renewed existence, future birth, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, dejection, and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. Therefore, it is very important to complete the study for the truths of life within nature by the threefold study strategy, namely the morality, the mind, and the wisdom development. This is the path and way to enlightenment to gain the knowledge of the destruction of the taints. With the development of instructed cognition, wisdom, then whenever the mind becomes unwholesome, by establishing mindfulness with a proper dharma to abandon such the arising unwholesome mind, and then the mind will be liberated from unwholesome by wisdom. This is the dharma of the wisdom to liberate the mind, and make an end of suffering in life. In Buddhism, this is the completion of the noble search to abandon defilements and suffers in life. In Udana Sutta, the Buddha explained that the main factor causing all kinds of suffers in life was due to the assumption of self in the mind processing of which we all try to satisfy it with greed, hatred, and delusion. In Paticcasamuppada Sutta, the Buddha explained the standard mind processing in terms of 12 steps of changes in mind processing, and in SN 36-6, IV 207-10, the Buddha explained that there were two types of feeling, bodily feeling and mental feeling. The mental feeling will drive craving. In Mahanidana Sutta, the Buddha elaborated the detailed processing between the cravings and clinging which was driven by feeling to dominate the 5 aggregates subject to clinging. In Mahapanama Sutta, the Buddha explained that with instructed cognition, wisdom, we should realize to this fact, and having clear understanding that all kinds of the 5 aggregates subjected to clinging, no matter it may be related to the matter of the past or the future, external or internal, simple or complex, and all of them are no self, then the mind could be liberated. In SN 1238, 265-66, the Buddha explained that although the object of consciousness might had already faded away, but due to the ignorance the mind will keep on renewing a new object of consciousness to resume the process of dependent origination. In Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha explained that when encountering with any unwholesome, then establishing mindfulness with Dharma to abandon the unwholesome, and then the mind would be liberated.